Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that's got a very relatable body. It's great for podcasting. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most weekends, or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Zamunda!
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and he'd be the first pick for my professional Kablawi team. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
Ahoy! I am pretty agile.
Each week we'll chat about movies and television and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. He's the conqueror of countries and hearts, the wrestlers of lions, the tamer of elephants, the inspiration for either Timon or Pumbaa. It's Josh Childs, ladies and gentlemen.
That goes down as the greatest introduction I've ever had.
Well,
the most inaccurate, but also the greatest.
Well, I changed it slightly and stopped a little bit before the rest of the quote in the movie. So, we'll just leave that for what it is. We are excited. Josh is back with us. He's a movie lover, actor, director. Always a pleasure to have you on. Also a good friend from way back in the day. And we spent our members only pre-show kind of catching up with your movie Squat, how that's going, fully in post-production, and heading on to figure out what that looks like as far as the festival circuit and getting it out there. And really excited for you, man. It's going to be fun stuff.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, we're having a good time, and it's gonna. I'm confident in it, and I'm happy with how it's coming out along. Yeah. I was trying to say something like, I don't want to repeat what we talked about before, but I can. I'm allowed to. So it's the greatest movie ever made. That's all I'd say. It's going to be the greatest movie ever made. So
I think at least you're keeping it reasonable and shooting at accomplishable goals. I think that's really important. We are going to have a show today with a couple movies in it. Imagine that. Coming to America. I'm sorry, Coming Dose America, to distinguish it from the first, is going to be one of the movies. And Yes Day will be the other one we are talking about today. And then, of course, we've got a Best Ever Challenge. We're doing Best Ever movies that have fictional countries in them. And we'll do some buried treasure, all that stuff as well. Going to take a break from the podcast recording right now to talk to producer Phil. I'm going to go ahead and upload those videos for you before we get in here. But I'm taking a break in the podcast part of things because I think that's going to interrupt us a little bit. So those of you who are watching video, you get to be have a fun part of this experience. So let me try to get these set.
I'll entertain them in the meantime.
Yeah, go for it.
Nice.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
And you're distracting Aaron. He can't focus now.
Let's see. There's one. And there's the other. All right. So, Phil, I'll give you a second to properly prep those for how you want them. And then we'll get back into the podcast part. See what you get for tuning in live? Isn't it fun?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Isn't it fun? An advertisement for Prime Video.
This will be taken care of in post.
That's right. Slab says, behind the scenes magic. I don't know how magic it is, Slab, but it is definitely behind the scenes. It is definitely that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back into it. All right, let's kick off the show by talking a little bit about Coming to America.
Mm-hmm.
Needing a male heir to the throne, Prince Azim returns to Queens, New York to find his long-lost son and bring him back to Zamunda. Eddie Murphy returning to the Coming to America franchise, 30 years later, 35 years later, whatever it might be, bringing back pretty much everybody from the original. You're going to see Sherry Headley, James Earl Jones, adding Wesley Snipes in is a lot of fun. Arsenio Hall, Kiki Lane, lots of people jumping in here to have a good time. And I want to ask right off the bat, did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or was just okay? Andrew, what do you got?
I loved it.
Nice.
I loved it.
Good. Josh, what about you? Like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or was just okay?
on the cusp of did not like it, barely liked it. Where does that land in what you just said? Sorry.
Probably just okay.
Just
Yeah.
okay. Just okay.
Low side of just okay. Yeah. That's exactly where I land too. I may even be in the didn't liked it camp. I found myself rolling my eyes more than laughing, and that's not a good place to be in. But let's hear from you first, Andrew, since you had such a good time with it. Like, what are some of the things you loved about Coming to America?
Seeing Eddie Murphy again just put the biggest smile on my face, and this whole world, of Zamunda and Coming to America. I like how this movie turned it on its head to where the first movie was all about, this prince from Africa coming to Queens and experiencing, the life of what it was like in, 1980s Queens,
Mm-hmm,
and this movie is all about another person coming to Zamunda and, being introduced to that culture and stuff. And it's always good seeing Arsenio and Eddie Murphy doing what they do best, and that is playing every character they possibly can in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. I thought from the get-go that this movie was hilarious, especially James Earl Jones had me rolling. I thought King Jacques Joffre, ruler of Zamunda. Everything about this movie, the cameos I thought were great. Don't get me wrong, even though I said I loved it, I do have some issues with this movie. But for the most part, even noticing those things that I was like, oh, I definitely wouldn't have done it that way. It can't take away from how much I was smiling and laughing during this movie. So I have to say I loved it.
Josh, what are some of your general thoughts coming out of it? I know you landed in the low "it was okay" range.
Yeah, I thought there was definitely some stuff that I liked and enjoyed. I too liked most of the times when Eddie Murphy and Arsenio playing the other characters. I thought most of those landed really well, and I really liked. I liked Wesley Snipes in it as well, and I liked that. Like, clearly Wesley Snipes and Eddie Murphy are like after Dolomite, right, where they were together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know if that was the first thing together. It's like, oh, I think they're new friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like that aspect, and I thought he was utilized really well. There were some of the gags and stuff I thought were really funny. Overall, once you kind of get where the movie is, you just know where it's going the whole time. Sometimes it felt like some of the heavy load of the storytelling was thrown away so that they could just spend all their time and energy on the hard comedy bits, like, other spots, which is probably not that unlike a lot of comedies. But the other thing there was something magical about the original. It's not even my favorite movie, but I got the energy and the magic of it, and I just felt like this was overall kind of a lazy update, like, a lazy follow-up to that.
Yeah, you echo a lot of the things that I was going to say. Starting with the positive, I do think Wesley Snipes is the best thing about the movie, and I think it's more than just his performance. I think it's also because he's one of the only fresh things about the movie. There's so much time this movie spends in telling the same jokes a different way. And I expect some of that. I expect that, to be a part of it. But I just felt like it was, I've seen this movie before. Now, part of this could be that I just watched Coming to America for the first time within the last 2 months in preparation for this. I had never seen it. And so I am coming fresh off of going, oh my goodness, young Eddie Murphy just like shoots through the screen. He's this incredible, powerful force. And he's, there is something about this that as unfortunate as the word lazy is, I think that's what it is. There's just something that's kind of path of least resistance about what they decided to do here. And for me, it really makes the movie come away feeling pretty empty. I just come away going, okay, some of that was humorous, some of that was fun, but I mean, I'm not better for having spent, however much time watching it in any way, and I didn't laugh enough that it was extremely entertaining to me. So, and a lot of that has to do with I rolled my eyes a lot at the, oh, here's the same joke, but we're just doing it this way now, and it just seemed like there was too much of that for me. So that's kind of where I landed in somewhat of the same boat.
Maybe if I'd rewatched the first one recently, because I didn't go back and rewatch it before seeing this one, so it would maybe that would have affected, like, oh yeah, that's the same joke from when, but it was just fun being back in that world for me.
Sure.
Seeing those characters, especially the barbershop guys, which I know is Eddie and Arsenio, but it's just it's like, you can say, it's the same old jokes and everything, but there's also something comforting about going back and seeing all those same gags again too.
Those guys were actually my favorite. That was my favorite movie, was seeing them playing with those characters again. And you're right, but it's the bits are, I mean, they're different, but the bits are the same, but it's because the characters are the same,
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where I do feel like that was doing it a service, not changing anything about, like giving that comfort and giving that, like, oh, we can count on those moments with those guys.
Here's a question for you guys. Can you do a sequel to Coming to America without using the same premise as the first one? Of, fish out of water.
Well, no, listen, you can use the same premise and then put a spin on the premise, which I think the story tries to do. I think where it gets bogged down is it tries to put a spin on every single joke from the first movie. Like, there's the bathing scene, there's the church scene, there's just every scene in section in joke, even from the first movie, there's a callback in this movie. Now, I get that. I love callbacks. Callbacks are hilarious. It got bogged down in it for me to where I was like, okay, but where's the new movie that I'm spending some extra time watching this for? Like, where is that, in the presentation? And it's underneath there in the story a little bit, but I just don't think this movie serves that story. It feels like it's more there to serve the inside jokes than to serve the story. That's what at the end of the day.
That's fair. Like. I get that.
Yeah. Yep. I don't really have a ton more to say. I think I kind of emptied my chamber pretty quickly. But
I'll throw out some of my negatives real quick for the
sure.
movie. There are some lifelong decisions made by the characters that I feel are insanely rushed.
That again was also in the first one.
Well, yeah, but for some reason in the first one there was an actual, like, I bought it, but for some reason in this one I'm like, really? You're after a set amount of time, maybe because there wasn't really, if I don't remember correctly, you don't really notice the time as much as in the first one, because they're not saying like in 5 days or in such and such time,
Right.
So you can put however much time you want to fit in your head. But here there's a designated timeline, and within that timeline, you're going, wait, what? You decided to go along with it for that?
I did have that same feeling in the first one.
Okay.
With the final resolution, and I don't know spoilers for Coming to America the original, but
you've only had 32 years to see it.
Yeah,
so.
Yes, you've had at least 3+ decades, so I feel okay. But I didn't see it till just a month ago, so who knows? But you have this moment where she finds out what's going. The classic story. She finds out that what the truth is, that he's been lying to her. Whatever. She gets angry. They fight. He goes back to Zamunda. The next time they're together, she's surprising him at the altar of marriage. That is the next time they see each other.
That's right.
That's right.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, no resolution? You guys don't need to talk about anything? Just, nope, we're getting married. So, I don't know. So there is a little bit of that in the first one, but yeah. So anyhow, I just that reminded me of that.
Yeah, well played. It's like I said, it's been a hot minute. What is today? Sunday? Yeah. The first time I saw Coming to America was 2007. So it's definitely been a hot minute since I've seen that movie.
Yeah. Josh, any other thoughts that you wanted to express about your experience with this movie?
I thought everybody in it was solid. I thought some people might have been underused. I think Tracy Morgan was underused, but specifically. But I think overall, like I thought everybody was doing what they could with what they had.
Tracy
and
Morgan,
sometimes that was out of the park, and sometimes that was just nothing.
Tracy Morgan originally was supposed to be the long lost son. Did you know that originally?
I didn't.
It was written for that part was written for him, and just because things happen, things work out differently. It didn't end up that way, but yeah. I thought Leslie Jones, was hilarious in this. It was really funny.
Great. Yeah.
I think that's a great point, Josh, and I'm glad you said it. It's not the performances that I didn't connect to. I think these are really funny people doing funny things, and as I mentioned, especially Wesley Snipes for me. But that wasn't my issue, and I think it's good to bring that up.
I love Wesley Snipes. Here's my biggest complaint with the movie. It's not even the timeline issue. Is that I think that there was an untapped potential for a story arc that was kind of made a side plot when it could have been the main plot with his oldest daughter. That I'm like, oh man, if you would have focused on that and made that the main story, I think that could have been a much more powerful and amazing movie. But I
think they're supposed to be A plots. I think the movie wants us to, but it doesn't feel that way. You're right. I agree. It does not feel that way. But I think that seems to me that would be the intent. So yeah.
Final thing, there are a lot of post-credit scenes.
It's true. And that is very true. I think I would say if you loved the original, I still, even as much as I've kind of downed on it a little bit, I still would give it a shot, because you are going to have a little nostalgia. You are going to have a little fun. You can grab yourself a McDowell's McFlurby or whatever and have a good time. So, but it's also in the first movie.
30 years ago. It was very funny.
Right.
Was that John Atmos? Is that who that was?
Amos. John
Amos. Yeah. I love that guy.
And of course, for whatever reason, Louis Anderson has made the trip over to Zamunda.
I don't know why, but seeing Louis Anderson was like one of the I'm like, oh my god, Louis Anderson, I haven't seen you in forever. What have you? Oh, I guess he's in Baskets, but I quit watching Baskets. So
I haven't seen you since Coming to America.
That's right. I did like with all of that stuff that was going on, all the throwbacks and literally everybody coming back. I was like, well, they can't find a spot for Eric LaSalle. Like they can't let Solo. Right. They can't throw a Solo nod back. Nothing.
Nothing.
So
amazing.
Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe they had it in the script, and he's like, "I'm good."
Could be. There you go. I think it's a cautious recommend for me, especially if you liked the first one. Even though I didn't enjoy it, I think there's enough there that you might enjoy, and obviously Andrew did. So we can throw that out there. All right, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about Yes Day. Always feeling like they have to say no to their kids, Allison and Carlos decide to give their 3 kids a yes day, during which the kids have 24 hours to make the rules. Yes Day stars Jennifer Garner and Edgar Ramirez as the parents. You've got Jenna Ortega, Julian Lerner, and Megan Stott as the kids. I'm sorry, Megan Stott is not the third child. She is the friend. And then Nate Faxon playing like the genie in this movie, maybe, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So this is on Netflix. I don't know if I mentioned Coming Dose America is on Amazon Prime. But this one is on Netflix, came out this weekend, and I think is firmly aimed to that family category of films for families to watch together. What did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Josh, you get to start us off this time. What did you think?
I liked it.
Nice.
I liked it. I feel like it was, for what it was aiming for, what I liked it.
That's
my personal preference might be, closer to the Coming America feelings, but watching it with my family and in the setting it's intended, that it was intended for, I liked it.
All right, Andrew.
I don't have a family, so I hated it. No, no, it was okay. It was fine.
Yeah,
it's not a movie aimed. I'm not the demographic, so there are moments where I chuckled. So yeah, I don't regret watching it. It was okay.
Yeah, I'm going to land right there with you, Andrew. I think this was, for me, it was just okay. And there were moments of this movie that maybe move it more towards the high side of just okay. Because I do think there are flashes of real fun in this movie. I don't think the whole movie maintains that, but I do think there are some real flashes of fun. Josh, what are some of your general thoughts on this one?
Well, watching these these movies back to back, I mean, it was 2 different days, but close together. I think that's part of the reason I liked it, because I did walk away enjoying it more than Coming to America. Although it probably is just okay, you know what I mean? Like I think that's my brain. My heart I liked it. I thought premise was really it was a solid premise. I've never read the book. I don't know how true it was to that story. I thought everybody in it was solid. I really liked the dad. Say his name for me.
Edgar Ramirez.
Edgar Ramirez. I know I'd seen him, but I couldn't tell you where I've seen him. You know what I mean? And I thought the youngest girl was just cute as the Dickens. And I thought everybody was good. I loved my favorite stuff was probably the Nate Faxon stuff. I'm a fan of him anyway. But the fact that they just kind of let him play, I thought was a really smart choice. But there was holes. Had I wrote Yes Day, I would have had a whole different lineup for what they did that day. That was maybe my biggest thing. I was like, I guess that's fun. Everything was like, I guess that's okay. But I would have had a more dynamic, like I wanted more dynamic, like Yes Day excursions, and then a lot more just peppered throughout like that. I feel like that's the premise, is like give me like every moment there's something, decisions being made. Like you got the top 5, but then give me micro yeses all over the place. Anyway, I probably said too much for just the intro thoughts, but anyway.
No, that's perfect. And I think you bring up a really valid point about this movie that I want to echo, which is it does not I don't think use its premise to the fullest. It really doesn't find a way to make the fun of this into something bigger than just like 3 set pieces, and it's like, man, there could be a lot more to how you're using this, a lot more to what you're doing with the idea of a Yes Day throughout the day, both in small and big ways. And the set pieces all felt kind of similar, right? Like they all felt kind of along the same lines. Now, having said that, I think the Kablawi or whatever scene, I think it's just fun. I think there's just a lot of fun there, and it's well shot, and it's clever, and there's really funny play on, a lot of the idea of how they set it up, and that the people that are there under false pretenses. And I thought that was all really funny. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to lose that. I guess I just wish more was done with the other kind of set pieces, the bigger Yes Day things. So that's me. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, I think that Jennifer Gardner is actually, I think she's well suited for a movie like this. Like the soccer mom who decides, what, today's the day. She kind of had that energy, that bubbly energy whenever she needed it. But she also had the sternness of a parent, that came through. I think being a mom actually prepared her for this role. But no, I think that I felt a really good chemistry between her and Edgar Ramirez. I
agree.
I don't, on the show, we don't blame child actors for not being the next, Daniel Day-Lewis or anything like that. But I do think that there are some issues with child acting that, make me go, could have found a different kid. But at the same time, that's just me not loving families and children. So
that's me hating families. That's
yes.
what I understand. I did not notice that. I really wasn't distracted by any of the child acting in this. I in fact, Julian Lerner, he's really got an interesting sense of humor, and I think I'm excited to see kind of what he does next. Now, in a movie like this, it is one of those things where the tone of the movie can also play with how you're seeing the performances and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And the tone of this movie is very over the top, ridiculous. There are many things that happen in this movie where you just cannot think at all deeply about them for a split second. It's just like the second you start to think about the reality of the situation, everything disappears.
Well, you would erase the entire third act of the movie for starters.
Yeah.
I just specifically, sorry, this is part of my brain that happens for the other job that I do, but specifically at the carnival, there's a game where they're throwing bananas in a gorilla mouth to see who gets to the top first. Side note,
how do you
one gorilla mouth. They're both throwing into the same gorilla mouth.
Yeah.
And how's that making their monkeys? Are that like each of their bananas are RFID chipped or something, so they know which one?
You've never played Gorilla Mouth?
I'm sorry. Sorry. Vocational hazard. I apologize. But that kind of stuff is in this movie a lot, where just if I never encourage people to turn their brain off. For me, it's more adjust your frequency. Like it's a movie you have to adjust the frequency of your brain when you go into, and possibly you can have a good time. And it sounds like, Josh, you and your family were able to do that and just kind of have a good family night together and watch some shenanigans.
There were moments that both my 13-year-old and my 8-year-old found hysterical and landed exactly perfect for them.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to have that influence. You're like, oh no, that's the intended market, and they nailed that joke for my 13-year-old. They love that poop joke or whatever,
Mm-hmm. And there is something too about the Netflix strategy, which is interesting, where it's like a lot of times you will hear people in doing what we do or talking about movies that are very forlorn about, well, those kind of movies don't exist anymore, and there just isn't a place for a mid-budget family movie or a mid-budget rom-com. And Netflix is kind of like, we're the place, and we'll throw $40 million at a project and let you have your mid-budget family movie. And because their strategy is different and they feel like they can do that, they do it. And so that's why you get a movie like Yes Day. And I don't know, I don't think that's bad. I think there's some good results to having a place for that kind of stuff. So
there's a lot of family movies that land firmly in this genre, right? So it's the live action family comedy sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. They just feel like they're a dime a dozen, and they feel like they just churn them out like a machine. This one felt a little different. It felt a little like had a little more thought and energy put into it than I can't even think of some of the titles, but some of the just.
Well, I was thinking of like, have you heard of War with Grandpa, for instance?
Mm-hmm. Right, that's a great example.
Yeah,
another one that's coming out recently.
I would put War with Grandpa like in the category with this, right? Like the ones that are trying to do a little more, trying to, besides just the star power, like based on a novel, as opposed to it's like. Kid King, it's like, I'm a kid,
Right.
but I'm the king of this country, or, I just came up with that off the top of my head.
I know you just wrote a movie right there.
Kid King, yeah.
Kid King.
I decree everybody eat banana splits and credits.
Isn't there a Arthurian movie called The Kid Who Would Be King?
I think you're right.
Which is actually very, very good. I actually really like that movie. So there you go.
Not the one I pitched.
No, not yours.
I pitched mediocrity.
Andrew, did you have any other thoughts you wanted to talk about yesterday?
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper just to lock your kids in their room. Yeah, just leave them there.
Then have a yes day.
Yeah. What happened to the good old days of just smacking kids and saying, "Shut up, go to your room"?
SIFPOD podcast does not represent. Andrew does not represent all the SIFPOD podcast. Whatever that is. Yeah, I
the thoughts and actions of Andrew Ornstein,
right, whatever the disclaimer is.
Yeah,
you know it.
Yeah.
There is something, like, if you want to litigate the concept of this movie, the idea of this movie as a parent, I do have issues with the idea of a yes day. Like, there's some, they did lay some ground rules down, but even those ground rules aren't going to cover like what it means to be a good parent. I would find myself being a bad parent all day long.
Yeah. Well, even at the beginning, what they qualify as a bad parent, like when she's faced with her failings as a parent, as a mom, I'm like, that seems like pretty normal.
Yeah.
That's
just called being a mom.
That's just called being a parent.
Yeah. There's a scene in this movie, and it's where I really diverge. Granted, again, I've said it 1,000 times. I'm coming at this as somebody who is not a parent, just what I would do as a parent. But there's a scene in this movie where they're having a parent-teacher conference, and you see all the things that the kids are saying and making about their parents, and you see Jennifer Garner go, "Oh, that makes me sad." And me, I'm going, how are you not livid at the at the horrible things that what would you call it? The disgrace that your kids are showing towards you right now.
Whereas Josh would be like, "Man, that was really well put together, buddy. Nice job.
Yeah, nice work, buddy." You're right. I do yell sometimes.
Yeah.
Josh, what about you? Any final thoughts on Yes Day?
One last little negative. I thought the third act was disjointed. I didn't understand why they started the third act without the lead characters, if that makes without spoilers. That bothered me. I was like, so the story's just moving. Okay. That felt weird that we had spent so much time. It really is a movie about the parents. It's not a movie about the kids. I mean, they're there, right, but it really is about the parents. And that goes in the third act. The parents are not a part of that.
I totally agree. I think the third act is a mess in a lot of ways. I think it's trying to do too much and it's not doing any of it very well. I think they really wanted a certain scene with two of the characters and they just had to figure out a way to make that happen. Having said that, what launches us into the third act is Arturo Castro as a police officer making a decision, and it was one of the funniest things in the movie to me. Like he is a delight. So good. I laughed so hard at his response to a lot of what was going on there without giving a lot away. So we have that at least.
I would watch a supercut of his scenes and Nate Faxon's scenes.
Yeah.
Like I would watch that over and over probably. That was solid comedy from both of those guys.
Fortune Feimster was also really funny in this as well. Had just like that brief moment driving the ambulance and things as well. So yeah, that's the thing, right? There's a lot of funny stuff here. There's some moments of fun, but yeah, it is kind of a mess, especially towards the end. Literally and figuratively. So there are final thoughts. Recommend maybe for families, probably for families, for a family movie night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think this is one you have to rush to Netflix to check out.
Yeah. Slab on Twitch. I was seeing how far I could push, because They just kept
Well-
agreeing with everything I said. I'm like, okay, how far can I push this? How far can I make it? To where they're like, okay, I'm going to start distancing. Hey, for those of you who don't know, so far I am the tame one in this podcast because in the pre-show, these two gentlemen right here were talking about murdering babies, and it was horrifying.
Let's
No,
we need context.
Hey, no context. No context. They were talking about murdering little babies, and I didn't say a word.
Those babies were scenes in a movie.
And there's a difference between killing and murdering.
That's right. Yeah. Kill your babies is a phrase about editing and
I've literally never
writing.
heard that phrase in my life.
Back me up, Josh. That's a phrase, right? That is something that I
It's
did
a
not
hardcore.
invent.
It's a for real phrase in writing, especily. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
No.
Whew, I feel better now.
It's an editing term. Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
If I'm going down, I'm taking you both with me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, before we get on to our best ever challenge, I do want to take a moment to read something we received from somebody. And Andrew, I've sent this along to you as well.
Oh, yeah.
We got an email from somebody, and they said we could share this if we wanted to. And so I wanted to pass this along to you and just say how much we appreciate those who listen. And we know there's stuff going on in your life, and just the fact that we could, be a respite from that is amazing. This says, hello, Aaron, Andrew, and Danae. Danae was on the show recently, and I believe they also watched the show that Danae and I do during the week called The Morning DNA. I have a story to tell you about how Sif Pop and all of Studio DNA changed my life, quite possibly saving my life. For context, I'm 28 years old. When I turned 21, I started, like many others, casually drinking. Through the next few years, a couple tragedies happened, and what went from drinking with friends to drinking alone to, for about 5 years straight, I don't remember being sober. I, however, was quite high functioning, had a place I could afford, and a job I enjoyed to afford it. Skip forward to 2019, I ended up hospitalized multiple times with more than one stomach pump and ultrasounds on my liver that weren't so good. I had begun to come to terms that this is how I was going to go, and I was fine with it. Now, around this time, I'd been listening to Sif Pop and Shoe the Dough, which is the podcast that Danae and I do, religiously. To this day, it's still always a better day when a new episode of either of those comes out. November 15th through the 18th, 2019. The timeline for these days is hazy, so bear with me. That day, I drank apparently more than normal, or maybe I had an empty stomach, or maybe I'm wrong and God does exist, and changed my plans for that day. I remember waking up in the hospital and seeing my parents together, the two best people on the planet. The next day or two are blurry, but at one point I must have asked for my phone because I remember scrolling through my podcast looking for something to kill the time until I could go home. I was up to date on everything new, so I decided to listen through all the Pixar reviews you had from the past. That's when I first listened to the episode Mental Health / Coco Swift Sift. Hearing Andrew talk openly about how his panic attacks changed in the way they manifested and his openness about seeking help, how there is no shame in asking for help, and Aaron, your willingness to be supportive, something there that night, lying awake in a hospital bed, changed inside of me. I wept for hours as if the repressed thoughts and fear came to me, thinking about what I had put my family through, fearing any day they would wake up and find me dead, thinking about who would explain to my dog that I wasn't coming home, who would have the burden to explain to my niece why she doesn't have an uncle. By lunchtime the following day, with the help of my wonderful older sister, I was enrolled into inpatient rehab. I think at that time I sent some sort of email to you guys. I don't remember what it all about, but it was also around then that I subscribed on Patreon. During quarantine this summer, I had an unfortunate relapse. Ironically, I got a new phone a week or so after the bender and ended up re-listening to that episode, rekindling my conviction. Andrew, to you personally, thank you. I don't want to say I would for sure be dead if not for you, but I wouldn't have bet on my odds. I've begun looking at furthering my education with the hope I can be as impactful of the lives of those who struggle with addiction and or mental illness as you were to me. To all three of you and everyone else on your team, continue the good work. As an agnostic, listening to Shoe the Dough's perspective has been a lifeline in understanding others. I truly believe I'm a better person for being along for the ride. I may not agree with everything, but I truly believe now that others' thoughts can not only save your life, but enrich it as well. I hope this finds all of you well and your loved ones safe. I've been meaning to send this for quite some time and hope to put a smile on your face. It's the least I can do. Also, feel free to share this if you wish. I'm finally ready for others to know my story. Thank you for listening. I wanted to pass that along because it's very meaningful to me personally. I know, Andrew, to you as well. And when we record these shows and joke about the things we joke about and review movies, it's not something we often think it can have a kind of difference like that. And this was one of those kind of looks into the other side of what we do, and we appreciate it. And I want you to know, wherever you are, however you're listening to this, whatever the case may be, we are thrilled just to be able to be part of your life and just be able to bring a smile when you need it, to occasionally actually talk about meaningful things, apparently, and to have those moments. So thank you for sending this in. Thank you for supporting what goes on here through Patreon, both to the one who wrote this, as well as to the others who continue to support. If you are interested in supporting Sif Pop, the podcast, the website, everything that goes on, of course, you can do that at patreon.com/siftpop, SIFTPOP. But we wanted to just give you a thank you as well for making that possible for somebody else, because you do that as well with your support. So appreciate that. Andrew, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I actually responded to this individual after I read that email, and I dried out my eyes. What I told them is what I'll say here, because I think that in case there's anybody else listening who might benefit from this, I said I appreciate that you thought that I was the catalyst to get your life on track, like my story helped you, but what I will say is that while my story may have been like a deciding factor, the strength to better yourself, that was within you all along. That's something that was in you. It's just it was just waiting to come out. So for those of you out there, if you are struggling with certain things, just know that you can find help, and the strength to do that. It's not something you should be ashamed of. So
appreciate that. And the other part that I wanted to draw light on as well is just how thankful I am for such an interesting group of movie lovers, listeners to what we do, and belief systems, faith systems, all that. That really means a lot to me, coming from a place that was much more, cordoned off in my life, as far as like, you think of like Christian radio, those kind of things. It's meant for a certain audience, and just the fact that we can do this and we know for a fact, because people tell us, atheists listen, agnostics listen, Christians listen, I really appreciate you bringing that part of it into it, and just saying this is a welcome place, that it's not about that. We're chatting movies and that stuff comes up occasionally, but it's really cool. So thank you for the letter for so many reasons, and so glad you're still with us. So glad you're hanging on, and to all those dealing with whatever, know that we're with you. We love you, and we're rooting for you. So there you go.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the best ever challenge for the week. We're going to do best ever movies with fictional countries. Now, this one was a little bit difficult because I nixed fantasy countries, because what Zamunda is supposed to be a real country in Africa that is in our world. And that's kind of where we want to go with this. So you won't see Narnia here. You won't see, Lord of the Rings here. Any of those kind of fantasy countries wouldn't
Lord
quite
of the Rings
work.
is not that's not a country.
Thank you, Josh. I meant any of the countries from Lord of the Rings, of which there are several.
Lord of the Rings, Donia. Lord of the Donia.
Yes, exactly. So
it's Middle Earth is a country, and then Northern Earth, and then Southern Earth.
I thought Middle Earth was the continent, and then there was like Gondor, or is that a city? It's
kind of like Australia. It's a continent and a country.
And a country, yes, exactly. The point is, it's fantasy, and we won't be talking about it. That is the point. You won't see Princess Bride here for Florin or anything like that. Like that's yeah. All right, let's get into it. I think we each have 5 that we will run down. There may be a lot of crossover here, because again, there aren't necessarily a ton of them. But let's start at number 5 and go to number 1. And Josh, you get to kick us off as our guest. What's your number 5?
Number 5 is Krakozha from the movie Terminal.
I like Terminal.
I didn't even
It's a
think
fun
about this
movie.
one. Yeah.
Because it doesn't technically take place in Krakosia.
No,
it takes place
right, yeah.
in the airport terminal. But
yeah.
Right.
But he can't go home to Krakosia because of the turmoil that his country is in the midst of. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. This was a hard list for me too, and I did spend some time online, just going, okay, oh, all right, I love that movie, and then doing my research a little bit backwards, then just going. Now, some of them I was like, I know exactly what I'm gonna say, but for five, getting a full five was pretty tough.
Yeah,
but that was that was a happy find for me. I was like, oh yeah, I did love this movie, and I do remember that played an integral part to the story.
Yeah, Andrew, what's your number 5?
I am gonna go. This is gonna get Trump, but Black Panther.
Yes, I shall trump you if that is your number 5.
Me too. I'll trump you too.
So, I had a feeling.
This will not be trumped, I don't believe. But my number 5, I had the BFG. I think I enjoyed this movie more than most. So that was my
the big effing giant. Yeah.
Sure, Andrew. Yes.
Was that? Yes. Oh, that was so okay. That's
friendly.
A little tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Well, Dream Country. Dream Country is where the giants live, and that is in our world.
Sure.
But
then technically Narnia would be in our world too, right? Because it's.
I don't think so. I think Narnia is like a portal to another world, isn't it?
I don't know.
And plus they have to use magic to get there. Here he just jumps him there. He just jumps over the whatever the English Channel or whatever, and somehow lands in Dream World. But
I'm giving you a hard time.
No, that's fine. Hey, and I'm glad you are, because I just want to bring up for a second. And Josh, you weren't privy to this unless you listened to the episode, which is fine that you did. And I know not everybody does, but it was a couple weeks ago, I think, that we were doing best ever movies with a female name in the title. I just want you to know how much backup I got for Saving Private Ryan. All right. I just want you to know that I received many emails from fathers who like, my daughter's name is Ryan, and thank you for sticking up. For
I think these lists were made for finding the chinks in the armor. Yeah, they're absolutely made for like, what's the side way to get into this conversation? Absolutely.
Aaron, I don't care how much praise or affirmation you get. I will stick till the day I die. Hey. The hill I'm going to die on is I am not giving you Saving.
No. Listen, you have every right to. You get one veto a year, so you used your veto for this year.
That's my one veto. It doesn't matter what comes up. That is going to be it.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I like the BFG. I think it's really fun. It's a Spielberg movie, and he knows how to make movies. It's not top
Speaking of Saving Private Ryan.
That's right. It's not top
Terminal.
And Terminal. It's not top notch Spielberg, but it is Spielberg, and I enjoy it quite a bit. So that's my number 5. What do you got at number 4, Josh?
I've got a little movie called Zambia, which is from a movie called Micmacs, which was there it is right there. Boop, pop a little picture. For
the podcast listeners, Josh just pointed at the picture on the screen.
Yeah, it's right there. You guys don't see that? Yeah. I love Micmacs. It's been a while since I watched it. I'll be honest, like this is one of those research. I was like, oh crap, I forgot this was a part of this. I didn't even rewatch it, so I honestly don't even remember like how big a part it plays in it. So that I'm being like full disclosure, but I will say I love Micmacs, and I'm sticking by Zambia. I
have never heard of this movie. What is this movie? I don't know that I remember ever seeing this.
I'm actually with Aaron. I've never heard of it either.
So it's a Genet film. A guy who did Amelie,
okay, and
Children, City of Lost Children were big ones. I'm a huge fan of his stuff, and it's just a weird oddball. Most of his things are very like ensemble dramedy driven. Yeah. It's real weird, quirky sort of drama. And it's kind of anti-war message to it a little bit,
Can I read you the description? It's so great. Original French title is Micmacs à Terre Largo, Loosely translated, "Non-Stop Shenanigans" is the name of the title of this movie. The film is billed as a satire on the world arms trade. So yeah, that sounds fascinating. I do feel very, stuck in my American mindset when stuff like this comes up, and I've never heard of it. And like, I need to see more international stuff for sure.
It's probably my number 3 with Junet after, as far as Junet stuff. So after, Amelie, you can't beat. I feel like, and then City of Lost Children is pretty spectacular, and this would be my number 3, I think.
Okay, Micmacs.
Yeah,
Micmacs, paddywhacks. Give the dog a bone. Andrew, what do you got at number 4?
I am gonna let Rufus T. Riley, the dictator of Fredonia, take me to my number 4, and that is Duck Soup, the old Marx Brothers.
I got it. I got a Trump.
Oh, okay.
Man, I keep getting
good. Good.
Sorry,
Andrew. We're just not going to let you talk after all of that stuff you were saying about kids and families and stuff. Like you're done.
Honestly, I don't think. Well, you might. You guys are definitely going to have my number 2, but I have a pretty good feeling you won't have my number 3 or number 1. So I'll get to talk then.
My number 4 is also Duck Soup. So I will await on that. So let's go to number 3. Josh, what do you got at number 3?
Republic of Zabralka from Grand Budapest Hotel.
That is also. Oh man,
that makes sense. That checks out.
How do you like it, huh? Does that feel good?
Okay, Andrew. Then what is your number 3?
I'm gonna go with Dread.
Interesting.
I love.
What's the country in Dread?
They got rid of countries, and they technically have countries, but they're called cities now. So there's like Mega City, there's Uranium City, like all of like America's like Mega City 1 now. So
is this in the future?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It stretches the idea a little bit, but yeah, I think that adds some. We can now add Star Wars, right? Because there are different countries in that too. No, okay.
That's in a galaxy far, far away.
It was a long, long time ago, though. I don't know.
But what is? Yeah, but it's not in our world. You said it has to take place in our world.
It is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Mad Max Fury Road. Continue.
I actually did try to look up like Mad Max Fury Road to see like if because they have the Guzzling City, like Ammo Town and stuff like that.
Right.
But I couldn't find I couldn't confirm an actual country if like America was still called America or something like that.
Right.
But Dread is so good. It is so good. I think that Carl Urban is like, he took the slapsticky ridiculousness of these Sly movies, and he made a totally awesome, like serious, cool Dread, to where to this day, if Carl Urban was to come out and say, hey, we're going to be doing a Netflix series for Dread, I'd be like, I'm in. You make it as crazy, gory as you want. Gavin Free, the guy he works at Rooster Teeth, and he also has the YouTube channel Slow Mo Guys. I don't know if you guys have ever watched some of his videos before, but he was actually one of the DPs of all the slow motion effects for the slow-mo drug in this movie. And I think that is such a interesting and fascinating way to shoot slow motion in a movie, to actually make it a built-in like story mechanic, to where taking this drug slows down time, and that's why you get these cool action sequences. It's very much the first Raid Redemption, like you got to work your way up, the tower. But it's so, I can't actually, which one came out first? Anyway,
the Raid.
The Raid came out first.
Redemption was number 2, I think.
I think Burundal was the second one. The Raid Redemption. It's weird because they gave a sequel name to the first movie, The Raid Redemption.
Gotcha. Okay.
The Raid Barindal is the second one. But the first Raid movie came out is what I'm trying to get at first, I guess. But yeah, it's a fun movie. I love the character. It's a great comic book series too. So yeah, Dread.
Very nice. I just got the 4K Steelbook for Dread. Just came in the mail the other day.
Did you really, or is that a joke?
No, no. That's for real. No, Steelbooks are no joke. There you go. My number 3 apparently is going to get trumped. I had Grand Budapest Hotel at number 3 as well. So we will move on to number 2s. Josh, what do you got at number 2?
Number 2 is where I had my Wakanda.
Me as well.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and talk about it now. We both had it at number 2. Andrew had it at number 4?
5.
5. Okay.
5.
So yeah, go ahead.
I think it's obviously from Black Panther and the greater Marvel universe. It is central to the whole as the whole story unfolds, right? I don't know anybody who hasn't seen Black Panther. I don't know what to tell them.
Yeah.
Other than watch it. You know what I mean? Like that's why Wakanda was at number 2 for me, because I feel like it's just the most present in our zeitgeist right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just can't have it at the top of the list, towards the top or the bottom of the list, depending on which way you're going. Yeah.
I don't think that you technically have to see the rest of the MCU to really appreciate what's going on in Black Panther as well. I think that it's a good standalone movie too, and I think that that's important to say whenever you're talking about anything within the MCU. Like, yeah, you don't have to see the 14, 15 movies that came before it to really appreciate it.
I do like the end credits where they tease. It was the end of Winter Soldier. No,
they tease. They tease Wakanda at the end of Civil War.
Was it Civil War? Yeah. And I thought that was a really great introduction. Just that first little glimpse of it was in regards to end credit scenes, probably one of the best end credit scenes for those movies as well. I thought.
Yeah.
Nice reveal.
Oh yeah.
I love Black Panther. I think it's great, and I think it does something that a lot of the MCU movies struggle to do, which is be so fully realized on its own. It is just such a fully realized environment, movie, those kind of things, and still plays in greatly to the MCU. Those scenes are still there, but it's so fully and completely realized. And yeah, it's fun to see that in the MCU.
Everybody says Thanos is the best villain that the MCU has ever put out, and I agree. But for a one-off villain, Killmonger is so good. I think that, he so is a completed villain. The backstory, you understand everything that he is going through, and it's perfect. It's so good. Yeah. Somebody was saying a shame there won't be a sequel. I'm assuming you're talking about because we lost Chadwick Boseman. Yes, he will always be T'Challa, but I think they are making more Black Panther movies. They're just gonna. I think it's like
they are
Shuri or something like that will probably take up the mantle or something like that.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Yeah, they'll keep them going, and I'm sure they will do their best to be as respectful as they can, and try to figure out what that looks like. But no, they won't recast. They've already said they're not recasting T'Challa.
Yeah.
So that is not happening.
Yeah.
All right, so that was our. Oh, Andrew, you're number 2, right? We haven't done your number 2 yet.
This is where I have the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Okay, and we both had it at 3. So there you
go. Take your hands off my lobby, boy.
That's all we have to say about it, right?
Ralph Fiennes is like one of the most lovable, eccentric characters ever in this movie. It's so fresh seeing him in a role like this, because whenever you think of Ralph Fiennes, you automatically think of like some of the most evil characters, like famously evil characters in cinema history, from Schindler's List to I guess the Harry Potter movies, even in like little smaller movies like In Bruges, he's just a totally evil person. But here, he's just a charming hotel. Is he a maitre d'? Is he the owner? What does he do at this hotel? I don't know, but I love him.
He's not the owner. He's the manager, right? Like
the manager, I guess, would be the best. Yeah. But then insanity ensues. That's all. is this whenever Wes Anderson really found his groove and like this is when he's like, okay, now these are the like, because before this you kind of had like Rushmore and Darjeeling Limited and
Life Aquatic.
Life Aquatic. Yeah, those are all really eccentric. They're definitely very Wes Anderson, but I think that this or like Fantastic Mr. Fox is like right where he came around to like more accessible movies.
Well, I can tell you exactly where it was for me. It was Moonrise Kingdom for me.
Did that come out before or after this?
That was before this.
Oh, was it? Okay, then yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I had always struggled to connect to Wes Anderson movies. I flat out didn't like Life Aquatic. I thought it was, and Darjeeling. Both of those actually I thought were terrible.
Those are my least favorite. I love them, but those are my least favorite.
Life Aquatic's my favorite.
I know it is. But Moonrise Kingdom was the first Wes Anderson. Well, I mean, Fantastic Mr. Fox is Fantastic Mr. Fox. I almost see that as kind of an aside, like Isle of Dogs. I kind of see those in the same kind of like, I'm doing something different here. Yeah. But Moonrise Kingdom was the first live action Wes Anderson where I was like, oh, I really enjoy this. This is really meaningful and fun and interesting, and still has the Wes Anderson feel to it, but at the same time, like you said, it's more accessible for me. This is just my story. And then Grand Budapest was the same. I really like Grand Budapest or Budapest, if you prefer. Budapest.
I don't shoot like the first three are still my favorite. Grand Budapest I love, but I'll be honest, it's Jeff Goldblum's character in it is so long-winded and so dry. I have trouble not tuning out during Grand Budapest anytime he's on screen. And I love Jeff Goldblum, and I think the script's great, but he's just this. He just speaks to say yes is this long monologue, and it's Jeff Goldblum doing his monologue, and it's it just goes on forever, and that's my only strike against Grand Budapest is like he wears me out watching that movie.
Yeah, they're mentioning Royal Tenenbaums as well in the chat.
Yeah, that's it. Rushmore, Tenenbaums,
and Bottle Rocket.
And Bottle Rocket are my three favorites.
I didn't even like Royal Tenenbaums that much. But yeah, I have just decided.
Apparently, everybody hated Gene Hackman on set of that movie. Apparently, he was just the worst.
It's unfortunate.
Was it?
Yeah.
I have decided, however, I am going to rename our bathroom the Grand Budapest. So just take that for what it's worth. Budapest. Yes, the Grand Budapest. Yeah, exactly. I do love his not live action, his Isle of Dogs, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and then Moonrise Kingdom and Grand Budapest. So there you go. That was my number 3, Josh's number 3, Andrew's number 2. So I think my number 2 was Black Panther. So it's time for our number 1s. Josh, what do you got?
This is where I had Fredonia. From the Duck Soup. Yeah. And since we all loved it, we can all talk about it. But I'll start by saying I feel like it's the granddaddy of all of them. That's why I put it at number 1.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
For sure. Yeah.
Or Day at the Races. Those are the 2 most famous Marx Brothers movies.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as like granddaddy of the fake country list, because it's predates everything else on our list.
I got what you're saying now.
And
1933.
I had I was listening to the anthem again. I've suddenly forgot it again, but the anthem that he sings is pretty spectacular. I'm not saying these other movies don't have an anthem, but but it's got a spectacular anthem. Anyway, let's keep talking. I love the movie. I love the guys. That's one of their best. And watching him walk around in his tuxedo and tails, and that one is iconic.
Yeah. Andrew, what about some of your thoughts on Duck Soup?
I was raised on Marx Brothers. I think besides Abbott and Costello, they are like the funniest group comedy set. They're so good. Groucho, Marco, Chico, they're just and Harpo. Zeppo, yeah. They're just the best. I don't know what else to say other than they're they're great. I think everybody really like leans towards like Groucho because he's the most characterized, I guess you could say. He's the most recognizable. But like, I think Harpo has some of the funniest moments out of all of these movies, you know. And of course, he always plays the harp insanely well, you know, in all of these movies. You got to have Harpo playing the harp, and you got to have Chico doing the piano, and then just Groucho womanizing. those are the staples of a good Marx Brothers movie.
Yeah, and the movie has something to say too. It's not, you know, groundbreaking, but it is definitely satirical in a way that is, you know, making a point. And so this is another one that I watched during pandemic for the first time. I almost said thank you, pandemic.
Ooh.
I should never say that. But, you know, there is that, again, we've talked about that bonus of being at home a lot more and catching up on a lot of stuff. So this is very fresh in my mind. And I just remember being struck by the magic of it, and just that there, even in 1933, just there's a vaudevillian aspect to a lot of the stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
It's just really fun. I think it's like the mirror scene is really great. There's a scene with a lemonade stand that is really, really fun.
So Stuart has said in the chat, wants to know what a good first Marx Brothers watch. I would say mirror scene alone puts Duck Soup at the top. Number one for the Marx Brothers watch. I mean, I think it's great overall, but that, like, you want to see that first.
Probably Duck Soup and then Day at the Races, probably.
Yeah.
I would
Animal
say
Crackers.
Duck Soup for Animal Crackers. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's nice about Duck Soup too? Sorry, you were still talking, Aaron, when I said
No. That was it. I just remember those scenes and just feeling how, you know, just how much fun and magic there is, and I love that kind of stuff. I love that kind of presentational, vaudevillian kind of stuff. So
yeah. I like these old guys, the old timey vaudeville actors doing their stuff, because they find their ways to do their bits. But I think Soup may better than some of the other ones. Like you said, it has something to say. It connects the story to the bits a little stronger than just like a series of bits that are loosely tied together, you know? It's still pretty loose, but it's tighter than a lot of those, you know, vaudevillians making their first moves screen, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it's because these guys were coming out right as soon as like the silent film era was ending. So the use of physical comedy was still very much in the DNA of, you know, making, you know, stories and stuff. So I think they just added, you know, dialogue to an already comedic way of telling, you know, funny jokes. So it's great.
All right, Andrew, I think we're ready for your number one.
Well, while Duck Soup may have a very famous anthem, I think that my number one has an even more famous anthem. Unfortunately, I can't sing it because of the language, but I'll just say, America! F yeah! Team American World Police is my number one. As we go to Durka Stan. This movie is so ridiculous and offensive, and it's great in every single way. I can't remember. We recently talked about Team America. I can't remember what it was about. But yeah, the puppeteering in this movie is so funny. I remember we talked about like how some of the jokes. Aaron said that some of the jokes this movie would not be as funny if it was not puppets, if I remember correctly. And I was saying, like, I still think that a lot of these jokes would still work if this movie was like a live action or like an animation, because I think that the soundtrack, the comedy of the soundtrack, is really like what I love about this movie. Like, Pearl Harbor sucks and I Miss You is like, that's just comedy gold. Making a sad song and the main premise is that you were so disappointed in Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor, and that takes precedent over missing the person who just left you. Yes, the love scene because it's puppets is what makes. Yes, Drew. Yes, you are right. I don't think that scene would work as well if it was live action. But
or be approved for viewing in most theaters.
Yeah, in most theaters. Yeah.
Well, if the live actors were as anatomically the equivalent of the puppets, then maybe it would be okay.
Then maybe.
Yeah. But it's for me. It's one of. I have never laughed harder in a movie theater. Well, maybe Hot Fuzz, but I don't think I've ever laughed than those two movies. These are like top two movies I've laughed the hardest in a theater. So, yep.
That's
there we go.
No, I think it's also important to note, even if it works better because they're puppets, it doesn't only work because they're puppets, because
it's elevated.
You can see the exact opposite end of this with the Happy Time murders, right? It is a terrible movie because it's trying to do some of the similar things that Team America does. It just doesn't do them with the same. It's almost, this is going to sound very weird when I say, but it's almost a sense of authenticity that this movie has. It's almost like the movie believes itself and is willing to commit to the bit, in a lot of ways. And I think that's part of the genius of Trey and Matt, is that they commit to the bit. Like they totally, with South Park and everything, they just, they treat it as a valuable, authentic world, as strange and weird and over the top as it is. And so yeah, I do think those guys are geniuses together. I really do. And I don't throw that word around casually. But they have such a great way to play off of each other and create this stuff. And I look forward to the day, hopefully someday, when I get to see, what is the Mormon show, that the Book of Mormon. Yeah. I'm
so bad.
I'm excited to someday possibly get a chance to see. I think it's still showing. Well, obviously not right now, but hopefully it'll restart once the pandemic's over.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't fault you for this one. I didn't even think about this one. I didn't think about this one being in the category.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it would have made my list, but it definitely would have made my honorable mentions. So I guess that brings us to my number one, which I don't even know if it works. I don't know if this is right. I went with Aladdin at number one.
Man.
Not that Aladdin. No, not the one with.
Is that Sinbad?
I don't even think
for podcast listeners, this is all my fault because I misspelled Aladdin in the notes. And so Drew pulled up, apparently there is a movie called Aladdin, but it has one D in it.
Wow.
That is not the one
Aladdin.
I'm talking.
Aladdin.
Aladdin. Yes. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, there we go.
There's the one. So I'm not sure if this counts. I think it does. I think Agrabah is supposed to be in our world, but the movie doesn't make that necessarily clear. But I'm going with it anyways. My number one. Really do dig this movie. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
if I would have thought of it, it would have made my list. I'm definitely going to allow it. Yeah,
well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that from both of you.
Talk about it. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, go and see it.
Yeah, we've certainly spent plenty of time on this show talking about how much we love Aladdin, how much we love Robin Williams' performance in it. Beyond that, how memorable the music is. My wife and I duet "Whole New World" every chance we get. So yeah, it's so fun. I love so much about this movie, and really one thing that people forget after time is how groundbreaking the animation, like on the carpet escape and a lot of that stuff was.
Oh, that's like 3D
at the time.
animation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It really broke a lot. Like, remember people talking about seeing that in the theaters, which I did not get a chance to do. I wasn't watching movies in theaters at this point. But talking about how crazy that escape scene was and how beautiful it was on the big screen and stuff. So Aladdin is my number one. You guys have any thoughts on it?
I mean, we're all on the same page about this, so I guess we should discuss Aladdin a little more.
Yeah. Tell us about that, Aaron. You're kind of
my number one movie is Aladdin, and this is the incredible story of a boy
that is spectacular
purple shirt who really, really wanted a muscle-bound genie for his genie, and that's Aladdin.
That's funny.
For you. So
is
there you
Jesse
go.
the Body Ventura? Who is that?
I don't know that I can tell
I don't
who
think it's
that is.
anybody.
I mean, it's somebody, Josh. How dare you?
My
call
gut
them
is
a
that's
nobody.
not an American race. My gut.
Yeah, it's not even showing up on IMDb.
Not a domestic release.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty great though.
Oh, I found it. Oh, I found it. Oh,
give us a
yeah.
synopsis. Give us a synopsis, Andrew.
Okay, updating the old Aladdin Arabian Nights tale as a teenager in a modern-day Miami finds a magic lantern and out pops a genie who's been asleep for 200 years and in his gratitude grants the boy several wishes. Came out in 1986.
So
Aladdin is... But it's
So
actually...
remake.
the actual title of this movie... Are you ready for this?
sure.
Super Fantagenio, not Aladdin.
Bud Spencer plays the
Bud
genie.
Spencer, yeah.
Bud Spencer, the great Bud Spencer, playing the genie. So glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. All
I
right.
am so gonna watch this movie.
Good luck finding it. Let us know if you find it somewhere. All right, let's move on to our buried treasure for the week. What is that one thing in any area of pop culture that you want to make sure people know about? I will kick us off. Since we didn't get a chance to talk about it on any of the episodes, I will mention Moxie, that is also just out on Netflix. I did get a chance to watch this, and I did not necessarily, I felt very similar to it than yesterday in that it just didn't feel like it was for me. But that might be enjoyed by many. I appreciated the intent of the message. I appreciated what it was trying to say. I do wonder if it might have benefited from kind of mixing the cast around as far as who our protagonist was. I found myself connecting to some of the periphery characters a lot more than our central character. And for many different reasons. But there are some interesting things here and enough smiles and moments that I think, especially for the target demo, there might be some enjoyment here. So I wanted to mention Moxie, which is just out on Netflix recently as well. Andrew, what do you got?
I'm going to go with a Hulu movie. I'm going to go with Boss Level. Just came out starring Frank Grillo, Mel Gibson.
Hold on. We're reviewing this next week, by the way. So this is on our schedule.
My buried treasure for this week is...
You can go ahead, go ahead and give some brief thoughts, but
Aladdin.
is Aladdin. Your buried treasure is Aladdin.
My buried treasure is so Aladdin. Guys, I got a chance to watch this movie in the last couple minutes, and I got to tell you, it's magical. It'll take you to a whole new world called Miami.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah.
Is it true that Aladdin is just the remake of it?
Apparently, Aladdin is just an Arabian Night tale. I didn't even know that. So I knew that there were the Arabian Nights and stuff, but yeah. So yeah, we'll see you next week.
Yes, we will talk about Boss Level next week. That is one of our reviews for next week.
It might have been this week had Josh had Hulu.
That is true. A little behind the scenes. That was one of the possibilities for this week. But Josh didn't want to get himself Hulu just to see Boss Level. So
you know what? I do have a buried treasure. Actually, I can.
All right, fair enough.
There will be no. If you're watching the video, there is no actual poster for
graphic?
it or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a YouTube series from a channel called Neebs Gaming. These Neebs Gaming.
Okay.
It's a bunch of guys from Nashville, I think, who are just the goofiest set of guys, and they have playthroughs of full games, and they take games that don't technically have a story. They're like a 7 Days to Die. It's a game that you can play for forever, and you just build stuff, or like Minecraft, But they create their own story within the game, and it's so brilliant. These guys are so funny because they actually work with their audio to if somebody's really far away, they'll like screaming, "Hey, hey!" and you'll hear the echo in the world and stuff like that, and you'll hear the person in the distance. So it's them playing a game, and it goes back and forth between them actually like trying to figure out the game mechanic, and they talk about trying to figure out the game's mechanics, and then trying to actually like make this a realized world. It's so funny. I really recommend watching Neebs Gaming. The ones that I've seen are the 7 Days to Die. You can actually go on their page, and they have like full playthroughs, like 4-hour long videos, but then they also have it cut up, you know. That's like a super cut. So yeah,
nice.
There we go. Neebs Gaming. Really, really, really funny.
Very nice. Josh, what do you got? What's your buried treasure this week?
I'm going to go a little more analog. I have taken a new hobby of whittling. This is a cowboy hat I whittled.
Ooh.
From a mere block of wood.
No, you didn't. You didn't make that cowboy hat out of.
I didn't do a
block
hole
of
for
wood.
it. I totally did.
Well, how am I supposed to wear it? How am I supposed to wear it?
Basswood. Here's one I'm currently working on. I'm a big Indiana Jones fan, so I'm currently working on an Indiana Jones wooden statue. Anyway, so my buried treasure is a YouTube channel called Craft and Carve with Doug Linker.
Okay.
He is a whittler. And I have taken up whittling, and so I found his tutorials very enlightening. But besides that, it's the most just relaxing. Like something so satisfying about watching somebody just carve up wood, you know, and watching it slowly take shape. Like that's all it is. It's usually just his hand, you know, cutting stuff until he makes a little fun thing out of it. Anyway, I don't know if you're a whittler, you may know this already, but I would check it out. If you're not, and you still like just want to relax, it might be worth it just to put it on and just watch and relax. He's calming.
Woodworking is so therapeutic. It really is.
There's a lot of people around me getting into arts and crafts kind of stuff on Twitch too, like just watching people knit or watching people, you know, whittle or watching people sculpt or, you know, whatever the case, mold, you know, like clay and stuff. So yeah, no, I think I think it's really cool that a lot of those art forms are kind of coming to the surface in some niche ways and some interesting ways. Yeah. That's if you're cool.
A maker, there's the maker culture, but then even within that, there's just so many subcultures, you know, in the DIY maker world. I love it.
Nice. Carve and Craft with Doug Linker. If you want to check
also
that out.
Also, it's probably pretty safe to put up there. You guys hadn't talked about it yet.
Yes. Yes. Well, we did it, guys. We did a podcast. Congratulations to us. We did a podcast and all discovered our new favorite movie, Aladdin, that we will all be checking out very, very soon.
Thanks so much. I'm going to find that movie.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna get the Blu-ray 4K steel box collectors of it.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Thanks so much for joining us today for Sif Pop. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcasting Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out again today.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Huge thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Hey, Phil.
Thanks to Drew for putting together all the graphics for the show.
Big clap.
Big clap. And thank you to Josh for coming on the show again today. Josh, where do you want to send people to find you on the internet, or your home address? It's all
you can follow updates on our movie stuff at the Nether region on what's it called, Twitter, and we have a YouTube channel, but we're mainly, our presence is mainly Twitter and Instagram right now. So yeah. That's the best. I have my personal Josh W. Childs, I believe, is my personal Twitter handle as well.
Nice. There you go. give Josh a follow. Much love and gratitude to our Sif Pop members as well for giving monthly to make Sif Pop a real thing. Support starts at $3 a month. Get access to all the bonus episodes, including some other fun perks as well. You can find out more info on that at patreon.com/SifPop. Lots of ways to connect with us. You can leave a comment. You can rate the show. Please leave a review wherever you listen. That helps us out quite a bit. Or email us, feedback@sifpop.com if you have any questions for us or anything you want us to know. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too. So make sure you let them know about it, and that listening is much easier than distinguishing between an Egg McMuffin from McDonald's and an Egg McStuffin from McDowell's. We will be back next week with, yes, you heard me right, Zack Snyder's Justice League and Boss Level. We will talk about those both next week. So we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, chats, video chats. Thank you for hanging out with us. Mark RG, Stuart, Carlos, Sonic, Buck Reviewer. Thank you all for being part of the show today. Slab as well, hanging out there. Jay Bourgeois, I think I saw pop in. So we appreciate all you guys, and appreciate you hanging out with us on a Sunday afternoon. So go find Aladdin for us and let us know where we can order it, because we now have a new mascot movie.
If we find Aladdin, I mean, I would like to come back
for the review
and come back and talk about it. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do a special episode. For sure. All right, guys. Love you all. We'll see you next week.